I remember the exact moment my phone buzzed. It was late in the evening, the kind of night where everything feels heavy and quiet. I was lying on my bed, scrolling mindlessly through social media, half tuned out from the world, when the screen lit up with a notification. It was a text from my dad. Now, let me pause here for a second. My dad wasn't the type to just randomly text me. In fact, we didn't talk much outside of family gatherings or when something important came up. Most of the time, his messages were short and practical, reminders about bills, asking if I'd eaten, or telling me he'd left something on the kitchen counter. Never emotional, never unexpected. So, when I saw his name flash across my screen at that hour, my heart immediately picked up speed. I hesitated before opening it. You know that strange gut feeling when something just doesn't sit right? That was me. My thumb hovered over the screen, like somehow not reading it would freeze time. But curiosity won. I clicked. The message wasn't long. It wasn't anything complicated. Just a single sentence that made my chest tighten in a way I can't quite explain even now. At first, I thought maybe he sent it to the wrong person. That's how strange it felt. But then, the more I read it, the more I realized he meant it for me. And in that moment, I had no idea just how much that one line, those few words, were about to flip my life upside down. See, here's the thing. My dad and we had a complicated relationship. He was present, sure, but never really there. He carried this quiet weight around, like he was always hiding something. I grew up with questions I never dared to ask and silences that felt louder than any argument. We lived under the same roof, but in many ways, we were strangers. So why now? Why this text? Why me? I kept reading the message over and over, my brain trying to make sense of it. Each time, it felt heavier. Like he wasn't just texting me words. He was leaving me with something much bigger, something I wasn't ready to carry. I thought about calling him back right away, demanding an explanation. But my hands wouldn't move. My heart was racing, and deep down, I knew this wasn't the kind of thing you just cleared up in a quick call. This was something deeper, something that was about to open a door I didn't even know existed. And the strangest part? A small part of me, somewhere between the fear and confusion, was curious. Like a part of me wanted to know, even though I also knew it might change everything. That night, staring at that glowing screen, I realized my life was about to split into two, before this message and after. And I had no idea what was waiting for me on the other side. Growing up, I always knew my dad as the man who kept things steady, even if he wasn't exactly warm. He worked long hours, came home late, and carried himself with this quiet seriousness that made him hard to read. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't neglectful, just distant. Like he was always in a world of his own, and I only got glimpses of it now and then. My mom used to tell me, that's just how your dad is. He shows love in his own way. And maybe she was right. He'd fix things around the house without being asked, slip a little extra cash into my bag before a school trip, or make sure my car tires were checked when winter came around. But he never said the words you wanted to hear. He never opened up about himself. And because of that, I never really opened up to him either. We existed in this unspoken arrangement, living under the same roof, sharing meals sometimes, but rarely sharing anything deeper. It wasn't hatred, and it wasn't love either. It was neutral, safe, but empty. That's why his message felt so strange. It wasn't just the words, it was the fact that he reached out at all. It was like a crack in the wall he'd spent years building, and I couldn't stop wondering why it appeared now. A part of me wondered if I'd missed something in him all along. Little details that I brushed aside because I was too focused on school, friends, and later, trying to build a life of my own. I thought back to the way he'd sometimes linger by the window late at night, smoking quietly, his eyes far away. Or the times he'd get this look on his face when certain songs played on the radio, like the past was tugging at him in ways I couldn't see. But I never asked. I never dared to. He was my dad, yes, but he was also a mystery I thought I'd never solve. And now, here I was, holding my phone, replaying that one line over and over, realizing that maybe, just maybe, he wanted me to start asking. At the same time, I couldn't ignore the timing. Why now? Why out of nowhere? He hadn't been sick, as far as I knew. He hadn't hinted at anything being wrong. Life had been moving along in its ordinary rhythm, and then this text shattered that rhythm like glass. It left me restless. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing his voice in my head, even though he hadn't said a word. just imagining how he might have sounded if he had spoken those words out loud. And here's the truth. I wasn't sure if I even wanted to know the full story. Because what if it wasn't just about him? What if it was about me too? What if that one message was only the beginning of something bigger, something that would drag me into a truth I wasn't ready for? The next morning, I woke up with one thought looping in my mind. I had to see him. I had to ask, but I had no idea what I was about to uncover. The following day, I couldn't shake the weight of that message. It sat in the back of my mind, pressing heavier with every passing hour. I stared at my phone, tempted to type something back, but every draft I wrote sounded wrong. Too casual, too demanding, too scared. In the end, I said nothing. Instead, I drove to my parents' house that evening. The drive felt longer than usual, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than they needed to. Every mile closer made my chest pound harder. What if this text meant something serious? What if he was hiding an illness? Or worse, what if he was about to tell me something that would tear everything I thought I knew apart? When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same as always, quiet, ordinary, untouched. But I knew better. That message had changed something invisible. Inside, my mom was in the kitchen, humming softly as she cooked. She greeted me with her usual warmth, but when I asked where Dad was, her smile faltered just a little, like she wasn't sure how to answer. "He's in the study," she finally said, and the way her voice dipped made my stomach turn. I walked down the hall, each step heavier than the last. His study door was half closed, light spilling through the crack. I pushed it open and found him sitting at his desk, staring at an old photo frame. He didn't even notice me at first. His hand was gripping the frame so tightly his knuckles were white. "Dad," my voice came out quieter than I intended. He looked up slowly, his eyes tired, almost haunted. "You got my message," he said. It wasn't a question, it was a statement, heavy and certain. I nodded, but my throat felt dry. I wanted to ask him what it meant, why he sent it, but the words stuck. Instead, I just stood there, caught between fear and curiosity. He set the photo frame face down on the desk. "There are things you don't know," he said softly. "Things I should have told you a long time ago." My pulse quickened. My mind raced with possibilities. Secrets? Regrets? A confession? Before I could respond, he leaned back in his chair and whispered something that froze me in place. "Your life isn't what you think it is." The words hung in the air like smoke, heavy and impossible to ignore. "Your life isn't what you think it is." I froze. My mind scrambled for answers, but nothing made sense. My chest felt tight, like I'd been dropped into a storm without shelter. "What do you mean?" I finally managed, my voice barely steady. Dad looked away, running a hand across his face. He looked older in that moment, worn down, like the weight of years was pressing on him all at once. "There are truths I've kept from you," he said quietly. "Not because I wanted to, but because I thought it was best. I thought I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" The word hit hard. Protecting me from what? I stepped further into the study, my eyes flicking toward the photo frame he'd set face down. Something inside me told me that whatever was in that picture was tied to this. But I couldn't bring myself to flip it over, not yet. I needed to hear him say it. "Dad, you can't just drop something like that and stay quiet," I said, my voice sharper now. "What are you talking about?" His eyes met mine then, and for the first time, I saw something I'd never seen in him before: fear. Real, bone-deep fear. "If I tell you," he said, his voice trembling, "you'll never look at me the same way again." A chill crawled up my spine. Whatever this was, it wasn't small. It wasn't something that could be brushed off as a misunderstanding. This was the kind of truth that shattered foundations. I thought of my childhood, moments that suddenly felt different in hindsight. The late-night phone calls he used to take in hushed tones. The random disappearances on weekends he always explained away with work. The way he avoided certain questions about family history, changing the subject before anyone could push further. "Dad?" I whispered, my throat tight. "You're scaring me." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his voice dropping low. "I never wanted it to touch you. I did everything I could to keep it away from you. But it was always going to catch up. And now it's time you know the truth." The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I wanted to demand answers, to shake him until he spoke, but something in me also hesitated. A part of me was terrified of what he might say. My mom's voice floated down the hall, calling us for dinner, and for a second the world felt normal again. But when I looked back at my dad, his eyes stayed locked on me, unblinking. He reached for the photo frame again, his hand trembling. He turned it upright, but before I could see the picture, he placed his other hand over it, blocking my view. "Everything changes after this," he said, his voice low and final. And then, slowly, he began to lift his hand. The photo frame finally came into view, and my breath caught. It wasn't just a picture of my dad. It was him standing beside a woman I didn't recognize, holding a baby that looked eerily like me. My stomach flipped. "Who is that?" I demanded, my voice cracking. Dad's hand shook as he set the frame down. "That's the part one never told you," he said, his eyes glassy. "That baby isn't just you. It's your twin." The words slammed into me like a punch. "Twin?" My whole body went cold. I shook my head. "No, that's not possible. Mom would have told me. She doesn't know." Dad cut in sharply. "She could never know. Because your brother, he didn't disappear by accident. Someone took him. And I've spent every year since then trying to keep you safe." The room spun. 1,000 questions screamed inside me, but none could leave my lips. I could only stare at him, realizing that his strange silences, the late-night calls, the hidden past, they were all connected to this one truth. And now, as Dad's voice dropped to a whisper, one thing became terrifyingly clear. "They found him, and they're coming for you next." The air felt electric, like the room itself was holding its breath. My heart hammered as Dad's words sank in. "They found him, and they're coming for you next." I stumbled back a step, my hands trembling. "Dad, this doesn't make sense. Who are they? And why would they come after me?" His jaw tightened. "Because you were supposed to be taken too. The night your brother disappeared, they wanted both of you. I only managed to save one." His voice cracked. "I chose you." The world tilted. My legs felt weak as the truth crashed over me. All these years, I had lived a life that wasn't just mine. It was stolen. Before I could respond, the front door slammed shut downstairs. My mom's voice called out, but it was quickly muffled, followed by heavy footsteps echoing through the hallway. My blood ran cold. Dad's eyes widened. He grabbed my arm, pulling me closer. "Listen to me. Whatever happens, you run. Don't look back." The study door burst open. A tall figure in dark clothing stepped inside, his face hidden in the shadows. But it wasn't just one. Two more followed, their presence filling the room with dread. And then, behind them, another figure appeared. My breath caught in my throat, because standing there, alive, grown, and unmistakably real, was the face from that photo. My twin. But the look in his eyes wasn't relief or recognition. It was cold, calculated, like he had been waiting for this moment all along. "Finally," he said with a chilling calmness, his gaze locking on mine. "We meet properly." Dad tightened his grip on my arm, but I couldn't move. My mind spun, torn between fear, disbelief, and a haunting realization. The brother I never knew wasn't here to reunite. He was here to claim what he thought was his. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. My twin, my brother, stood in front of me, flesh and blood, yet a stranger. His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach twist. I wanted to believe this was a miracle, some long-lost reunion. But everything about his presence told me otherwise. "Why?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. My voice cracked, torn between hope and fear. He stepped forward, the shadow of a smirk crossing his face. "Because your life was supposed to be mine. You had everything: family, safety, love, while I was left with nothing. Do you know what that does to someone?" Dad's grip on me tightened. His voice was firm, but trembling. "You don't know the whole story. I didn't abandon you. I searched every day." "Lies." My brother snapped, his tone sharp as glass. "You chose him." The room felt like it was splitting in two. My mom's muffled cries echoed from downstairs, and I knew time was running out. My brother's bitterness wasn't just anger. It was years of pain hardened into something darker. And yet, when I looked into his eyes, I didn't just see rage. I saw hurt, loneliness, the same emptiness I had felt growing up, just magnified. I took a shaky breath. "You're right. I don't know what you went through. But I do know one thing. I didn't steal your life. I didn't choose any of this. I'm your brother, and whether you hate me or not, that fact doesn't change." For a heartbeat, the tension cracked. His expression faltered, the anger flickering into something almost human. But then, like a storm cloud registering, his face hardened again. He turned his gaze to Dad. You don't deserve either of us, he said coldly. Then he stepped back, signaling to the two men beside him. Let's go. And just like that, he was gone. The footsteps faded, the front door slammed, and silence swallowed the house. I sank into the nearest chair, my chest heaving. My dad collapsed into his, burying his face in his hands. For the first time in my life, I saw him cry. He's alive, I whispered, almost to myself. All this time he's been out there. Dad looked at me through red eyes. And now you understand why I kept the truth from you. I thought if you never knew, you'd be safe. But secrets, they don't stay buried. The weight of it all pressed down on me. But beneath the fear, there was something else, resolve. I had a brother. A lost part of me I never even knew was missing. And no matter how twisted, no matter how painful, I couldn't just let him vanish again. That night, staring at the same message that had started it all, I realized something. Life isn't about the truths we're shielded from, but the ones we choose to face. And now, I had a choice to make. Run from the past, or walk straight into it. One thing was certain, my life would never be the same.